for saving it. All right, now we're good to go. Live on a Friday. Welcome. This is Conversion Chemistry / Fire Your Boss Friday webinar. Conversion Chemistry, the mastermind for the multipreneur, where we teach you the business skills and marketing techniques from world-class businesses and agencies and bring it down all the way to the solopreneur. I'm Dan Jones. With me is Frank Garin, and our guest today is Mihika Patel, public speaker, founder of One Mighty Mama, correct me if I'm wrong, but a committee member at the Lower Bucks Chamber of Commerce and personal friend of mine. And Mihika, fill in the gaps if I'm missing any accolades there.
I'm actually a board member as well, but
board member, got it.
Yes.
Well, that's awesome. That's awesome. Thank you for joining us today. This has been a long time coming. We were delayed because a certain Philadelphia football team just happened to go all the way and win the chip last month, which, you know, pretty much shut down the entirety of our city here. So we're back and we're ready to go. I am particularly excited about this topic. Your system for stop setting boundaries and start building better systems. We talk about boundaries a lot with, just interpersonal relationships, client and business relationships within the context of employment. And, in some ways it is important to set boundaries, right? Because it protects yourself. But you have a next step, a different methodology for that. And, that's basically it. So go ahead and take it away. We're ready to go.
Yeah, thank you so much, Dan, Gary. I'm really excited to be here today. So my name is Mihika Patel. I am the founder of One Mighty Mama, and I am really excited to be here today. And so, like you said, Dan, sure, we know that you need boundaries, but sometimes we tend to overdo it and we have too many boundaries. And then when that happens, you need to replace them with something else. And that's what I'm hoping to share today, that when you walk out of today's webinar, you will feel, okay, not only do I know what I need to replace it with, but also the steps to get me there. And that is going to be incredibly key. And so I always like to think of this John Maxwell quote where he says, the secret of your success is found in your daily routine. And like you mentioned, last month, something amazing happened. Actually, it was exactly 40 days ago where our Eagles went to Super Bowl 59 and came away with a big victory. And we cannot talk about that victory without talking about the amazing person that is Jalen Hurts, our quarterback. And the reason why I bring up Jalen Hurts, because whether or not you're an Eagles fan, you have to admit that he is one of the best quarterbacks in the league. And here's the thing, he didn't get there by setting boundaries, by saying, oh, I'm going to protect my time, limit my distractions, only work from this hour to that hour. He actually did it despite the hardships earlier on in his career. I mean, we're talking back in his college days where he was a second string or third string quarterback. If my son were here, he could totally fill in all those gaps and be like, Mom, that's not right. That's not right. It was actually this. And, pinpoint the exact dates. Or even once he was drafted to the Eagles, being sitting on the bench during the fourth quarter of a very pivotal game. All these things. And then, of course, in the big loss in 2023 at Super Bowl 57. And it was at that time that we have to stop and think, okay, you know what? What is it? Okay, hold on one second.
And this is okay. We're in an imperfect world with imperfect setups.
We are. And I'm trying to get my slides to show, and they're here. I just can't get them on the stage.
Well, let me see. If I add them to the stage, I think then you can take control. Perhaps. Okay.
Perfect. So you guys see it? I think we're all seeing the same thing, right?
Yeah.
So then we got to Super Bowl 57, and here's Jalen walking off the field, right? Looking up, obviously not very happy, showered in red and yellow confetti, and him saying that I had a purpose before anyone had an opinion. And this is so key because it goes and touches on the fact that he knew he had his purpose. He had his system already set. It didn't matter what anybody else was saying. And that this became his his phone wallpaper. This became his fuel because this is what he needed. He built those systems. He hunkered down because his daily routine, it was a system. His training regimen, it was a system. His approach to reading defenses, watching game day footage, leading his team, all systems. And it was those boring systems, right? When we think of systems, we think boring, mundane, routine, doing the same thing all over again every single day. But that's where the magic is. And for him, it was repeating the same drills, refining the same plays, meticulously tracking his performance, all of those things that he could constantly and continuously improve. And so we've all been told, set those boundaries. And yeah, boundaries are important. But the problem is that boundaries are taking you in a reactive mode or putting you in a reactive place where you're saying, okay, these things are happening. I don't want them to happen anymore. So I'm going to put up a boundary and prevent that from, occurring or prevent that from bothering me. And
so boundaries can be not only self-limiting, but off-putting to another person involved, is what you're saying.
Exactly. They put up walls. And the whole reason why we're putting up the boundary is not because we want yet another restriction in our life. It's because we want that momentum. We want to be able to move forward. And how you do that is with systems. Because if you want to be more productive, if you want to be less overwhelmed and more in control of your time and your energy, and I mean, who doesn't? You don't just need boundaries. You also need, hand in hand, good systems. And so that always reminds me of this picture that, was floating around the internet last month, which is, here he is with his Lombardi trophy, right? His first one. And he is in a happy place. And he's just getting started, right? It's always the beginning until it's the end. And it's always a good reminder to think, okay, you know what? It's not the end until I say it's the end. And so systems, they don't just protect your time, they maximize it. And so we all can't be Jalen Hurts, right? We all can't be, award-winning or MVP quarterbacks. But in a way, we are all quarterbacks. We are all CEOs of our own life, and we are all in control. And all of this really came to a head for me, not, when Dan and I talked about what an awesome presentation topic this would be, but rather 10 years ago. And here's some pictures of me at that time where, sure, on the outside, I'm looking very happy, but on the inside, I was struggling. I was a young mother to 2 kids, and I was working a job that was very demanding. And on top of that, it took me 3 different modes of transportation just to get to the office. And, we're talking pre-COVID days, right? So working from home was not, it was an extreme luxury, extreme privilege. And so I drove, I took the train, and I walked just to get to the office. And sometimes it sounds like, the things our grandparents say. I used to walk, all these miles to school barefoot in the snow. And when I say this, my son and my daughter always look at me like rolling their eyes. But I'm like, hey, this is the nature of what people are experiencing nowadays. And what happened to me at this time was the mental load. And we'll talk about that in just a little bit, what mental load is. But for me, that mental load, it was unbearable. I was burnt out. I was snapping at my family. I was constantly dropping balls. There were just too many decisions that needed to be made. And I was experiencing extreme decision fatigue. I thought I just needed better boundaries. So here I was saying, okay, you know what? I'm not going to check my email after 5 o'clock, or I'm not going to work on the weekends. And all it really did was make me even more stressed. And no matter how many times I tried to set a boundary, the same problems kept coming back. So it wasn't actually solving anything. And in fact, it was making things worse. And so I just wanted to share what we're going to talk about today, which is first and foremost, what is mental load? What does it mean when you have an excessive mental load, and what impact does that have on decision fatigue? Also, what are some examples of systems that worked for me? Because a lot of what worked for me may or may not work for you. And lastly, what steps are needed for you to start creating a system today? Because my whole mantra is that whenever I'm sharing these types of information, I want you to have some actionable steps that you can put into practice today. And that is exactly what we're going to do.
So question.
Yes.
one of my questions is always about inspiration. What inspired you to do this? And you kind of already answered some of it. Obviously, the recency of the Eagles and Jalen Hurts gave a nice refresher on this, and thus a renewed inspiration for systems. And then you gave us a look back at about a decade ago and talking about, just being overwhelmed with decisions, something that we've all gone through, not only in personal lives, but particularly and especially as business owners and operators. You say that you create boundaries until it got worse. And to me, that means it compounded. So do you have like a threshold moment where you said no more, or was it like a gradual thing where you tried out a system?
There was definitely a light bulb moment and I remember it so clearly. It was, people think like, oh, when you're on the weekend, right? When you like Friday on your way home, you're like, oh, thank God it's the weekend. Like I can finally breathe. For me, it was like, oh gosh, it's the weekend. Like things are about to get really crazy. And I would find that relief when I got to work on Monday. Oh, I can take a breather. I don't have, the stress of 2 little children, the demands of all of that. And I remember one day in particular, I'm sitting at my desk in the office and I have my emails up, like I have my spreadsheets open. I think I had like 3 different monitors, something like absurd. And it had gotten to the point where I'm like, okay, I'm seeing everything here, but nothing's actually filtering in my brain because all I can think about is, what am I making for dinner tonight? Do the kids have clean uniforms for soccer? And we have 2 birthday parties this weekend. Did I buy presents or did I order them? Is there enough time for Amazon to deliver it? And these are the things that are circling in my head. It's like, those are just 3 right off the top of my head, but there's like 17 more waiting behind it. And for me, it was a proper light bulb moment where I was like, I can't live like this. Like I need to, kind of think about it, address it, and then move on, as opposed to just letting it fester in the back, the back of my mind while I'm trying to get other work done and, be quote unquote productive. And so for me, that was huge because I was just so sick and tired of making decisions.
So and you did hit a threshold moment then. One of the watershed moments, right?
Yes.
Enough is enough.
100%. Yeah, okay. 100%. And it was not fun because I came to realize this is my state that I'm living in all the time. Like I'm never present in the moment. And
I know if Bree, my wife, is watching this right now, she's going to say, oh my God, listen to Mihika.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Like everything that she said, that's what's going on. No, and I coach clients and this is what they tell me. It's like, it comes down to the decision fatigue. It looks different and it feels different for each person. But at the end of the day, it's that decision fatigue where they're just like, why do I have to make so many micro decisions? Because it's those micro decisions that will eventually lead to something a lot worse, which I'll get into in just a moment as well.
Do you even know what the statistic is of how many decisions we make a day? It's probably even double what the previous factoid was.
I've read some numbers that are just insane because I was like
thousands and thousands and thousands.
Several thousands, tens of thousands, right? We're looking at like 30,000 plus. And I mean, it depends on how micro you want to get, but I believe it because
no wonder my head hurts.
Exactly. No wonder your head hurts. And, it's like, there's so many words for it, right? There's decision fatigue, there's analysis paralysis, all of those things, they make you feel stuck. And until you give a home for those things, and by home, I don't mean it could, in one reference, it could be like organizationally, right? Like physical organization. Like when you walk into your kitchen, for example, or into your home office, you have all of your power cords in one area. You have all of your pens in another area, your sticky notes, your notebooks, they all have a home. If you just kind of threw them in there willy-nilly, and you had to sit down and start working, it would be very difficult because you're like, all my tools are all over the place. I see all this clutter. For some people, it works. But I think the vast majority of people do find it very overwhelming and difficult. So we'll touch on that as well when we talk about the steps framework. But it's these small decisions and, day after day after day. And it causes a lot of stress. And that was my watershed moment, my light bulb, my threshold point. And where it reached a point where I was like, okay, something's got to give. Because if I can't change my situation, then something's going to have to change within me. And I knew my situation was what it was, right? Like, I've got 2 kids. Where are they going to go? Of course, I love them.
Right.
Pieces, like they're part and parcel with me, and with my husband, with my family. So none of that's got to change. I have to change my approach to it. And that's where systems came into play. So I'm going to jump back.
Add the president back up. I don't know if you can do that. I guess I have to. All right.
Oh, yeah. Thank you. There you go. So this is how we feel, right? Like, and Gary, you mentioned your head hurting. Well, if this is like a visual representation, that middle image of just like all these like disparate thoughts, and then some of them are all connected to each other or to multiple thoughts in so many different ways, it's enough to drive anyone, crazy. And
absolutely.
And here's the statistic, right? The statistic is this: almost 80%. And now this is specifically for women, experience feelings of overwhelm and burnout. And here's the reason why. And I know the statistic is primarily for women, but I can't imagine the one for men is too far off. And it's because we end up going through what's called this burnout cycle, which initially starts with exhaustion, right? Mental and physical. And then that leads to stress, right? We have those micro decisions that we're making, and each of those mini decisions leads to a micro stress. And that leads to guilt. Because if we were to backtrack to this slide, right? All these sticky notes, these are all priorities, right? These are all things that you want to do. It's not like I put in, doing, I don't know, I have the gym on my mind. So like 10 burpees, like that's never a priority for me. That's just something I kind of do, but it's never a to-do list item that, oh, I've got to do 10 burpees. But instead I have items like, oh, I need to go grocery shopping, or I need to make a phone call to this person, or I need to connect with this prospective client. Those are things that we want to do. And that's where the guilt plays in, because you're so exhausted and you're so stressed that you're not able to get to those things. And that leads to an excessive amount of guilt. And then that feeds right into those failed boundaries, because you're like, oh my gosh, I'm so far behind. I have all these things to do. I know I said I wouldn't work past 5 p.m. or I wouldn't work on the weekends, but here I am on a Saturday afternoon, just chugging away because this is what needs to be done. And we never get a chance to recover from that, which is why it just feeds into burnout, right? And again, the cycle continues, because now you're working late at night or working on the weekend. So now you're exhausted, and it keeps going over and over. And so what is required is a system shift. And because the question really does become, how would you like to turn that chaos into something a little more organized, right? Like, how would you like to take all those disparate thoughts that are flying around you and say, okay, well, here's a nice, neat home for all the blue ones, and then all the yellow ones, and all the pink ones, and all the purple ones. And before you know it, you've created some type of system. And that system shift is incredible. So you take that to-do list, you take the so many things that are on our never-ending to-do list, and you are able to make some sense out of it, right? The gears are finally shifting in a way. And now you have a to-do list that instead has check marks, because you're able to get them done. And that feeling is incredible. It's the type of feeling that if we are to go back into our, be like Jalen Hurts, be the quarterback of your life, be the CEO of your life. It's like when you wake up in the morning, you know what needs to be done. And you're not thinking about the grocery shopping or the prospect reach out, because you already have a day and a time dedicated to those things. And I don't need to think about it first thing on a Monday morning, because I'm like, no, I've got time set aside on Tuesday afternoon. And that's when I'm going to do all my outreach for my prospects. Or I'm going to get my groceries delivered via Instacart or via Walmart or Amazon or whatever. And that's already set. And if I know that that's set and that I have a time that's dedicated for that, I'm not thinking about that in the here and now. And then you start chipping away at your processes, and it makes life so much easier. You start unraveling the burnout cycle.
Can I
so
just
Frank,
Frank,
does this resonate with you at all? Running 2 businesses, you've got like 17 kids. I know that's an exaggeration, but
It might as well be at this point.
You're a list guy. I know you're a list guy.
Well, Post-it notes galore.
There you go. Those are my best friends.
Yeah, here's my urgent list. Here's my master list. I mean, it's too much, and I'm a person that has to work very hard to live in the present just to begin with. So I'm always thinking about, oh, what could I have done in the past? What should I have done? And I'm like, oh, what's coming up? And it's very hard to be in the now. So my question to you is, when did it start kicking in for you? Once you implemented this, how long did it take you before you didn't worry about Tuesday afternoon stuff on Monday morning? Because I, for one, look forward to that.
Yeah, it's a process. And I think you won't even want to begin until that burnout, stress, overwhelm is big enough, is taxing enough, taxing more than the idea of setting up those systems. And so I think everyone reaches that point at a different time. But I always say, and we'll touch on this with the steps framework, but this is the one I always get a lot of resistance with, is I always say start with one. And people are like, but Mihika, I've got like you said, and I'm so sorry, I think I've been calling you by the wrong name, Frank. But you have your emergency list, and you have like a second tier of, slightly less important, but still equally important tasks. If you are, you're saying, I have all these things going on, how can I just implement one system at a time? And the reason is, when it comes to systems, when it comes to any project, you have to only bite off enough at any given time that you can handle on your least motivated day. If you bite off way too much, right? Like if you're super motivated now, today, but what about next week? What about next month? And if you're not motivated and taken on 10 different new systems that you want to apply, there's going to be days where you're like, I could do so much more. And then there's other days where you're like, I can barely do like even half of this or even a quarter of this. And what ends up happening, and this is the rut that we all fall into, right? This is the drawback to all of this, is that we try to keep going in a way that is not authentic. We try to keep going in a way that where we bite off more than we can chew, and then we can't keep up with it. And then that ends up being a broken system, because we're like, oh, I started too many systems and now I can't keep up with it. And you haven't done it long enough for it to turn into a habit. And that's your goal. You want to stick with your system long enough so that it turns into a habit. You're doing it without even thinking. You're like, oh, Monday morning, these are the 5 things that need to happen on Monday morning. And Tuesday afternoon, this is what happens on Tuesday afternoon. But if you start, trying to overhaul your entire week right off the bat, then something is going to give. And what's going to end up happening is that one of your systems is going to fail. You're going to wake up on a Tuesday morning and you're like, I have no desire to talk to any prospects today. But if you work with that lowest threshold of motivation, then you will be able to get through it. Something I've heard so many times is, even if, systems are what you do when you feel like it and when you don't feel like it. So regardless of how you're feeling about an event or an activity, you have to stick with it and just do it. And yeah, I see some comments coming through. I feel like you're talking about me. It's 100%. I feel like, these are all the things that I have gone through myself. And it wasn't until, the first time I tried to implement a system, I was like, I want to do it all. I'm going to do this and this and this and this and everything, and it's going to be beautiful. And only to find out that, yep, I'm super motivated today, but next week I'm not motivated at all, and I don't want to do any of it. And then you fall right back into the habits of,
It's funny you say that. It's funny. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, go ahead.
It's funny how you said, because it's the perfect example of this is every New Year's, you're like, God, this is the year that I get it together. I promise I'm going to do this and this. I'm going to eat better, get more sleep, spend more time with my family, make more money, be more organized. And here you are at the end of March with, Post-it notes and phone calls backing up and everything else. And we make decent money. I'm not complaining, but man, it's busy. And there's there's always something to be done. There's always something to think about, you know, in both of my businesses.
Absolutely. And I will say this, just give yourself grace, right? Like don't beat up on yourself. I mean, I think a lot of us are in the same boat. Like, hey, it's almost the end of the first quarter. Like, I should have my act together. I should have achieved this, or I should have made this much progress. And when we don't get there, it becomes a demotivating factor. So yeah, I definitely implore you, like, don't give yourself that grace, and don't beat yourself up when things don't go exactly as planned. But I wanted to share a few of the systems that have worked for me. And, you know, in the personal as well as in the professional realm. And one thing that I like to do is I like to have a family calendar. Now, mine doesn't look as pretty and neat as this. And I wish I'd taken a picture. So note to self, I will be adding a picture of my not so pretty family calendar into the presentation. But so mine is actually still in February. I mean, it's March 21st. We haven't even updated it for March. So, you know, even I am not, you know, by any means perfect when it comes to this. These are all ideas that I have in my mind, and I try to implement them as best as I can. I give myself grace when things don't exactly quite work out. But the family calendar, it puts everything front and center. And this month tends to be a little bit quieter, so it was all good. But you know, in terms of like when my husband has business trips, when I have business trips, when my kids have their soccer practice, that's going to start, you know, coming into full force next month. All those things are in one place. So it's a system because there were times where no one was on the same schedule or no one was on the same page as to what is going on in our little sweet family of 4. And this way, everyone can put in, you know, my son's like, oh, I have a concert on this night. So we make sure we keep that front and center. Or I have an important this event or that event. And we put all of those things on there. And it just keeps everyone in sync with each other. Another one that I really enjoy is meal planning. And for me, so full disclosure, I love to cook, but it is the absolute bane of my existence to figure out what to cook every single night. Like, I'm just like if I could do something about it. And I'm surprised that it's taken me this long to figure it out. And, you know, meal planning is by no means a brand new thought or a brand new, it's been around, but I never implemented it. And all it took was maybe 10 minutes on a Sunday afternoon for me to sit down with the kids and be like, hey, what do you guys want to have for dinner this week? And so they get to pick what we're eating. I get to choose when that meal, makes an appearance on the dinner table. Sure. So I take in their feedback, and then I schedule it depending on, hey, I have a really busy day today. Maybe this is the day I do like a shortcut dinner, or I have a lot of time on my hands today that, I could kind of get things moving throughout the day, or I can do a little more labor intensive of a meal. But putting all that together, it served a couple benefits. First, it made sure that I had all the, I had an idea as to what needed to be done so that I could make sure I have all the groceries that I need. And another bane of my existence is going to the grocery store to pick up that one thing that you don't have in the house. I hate that. Oh my God. I don't like to use that word, but oh my God, does that drive me nuts? Even though the grocery store is like 2 minutes away from my home, but it drives me absolutely insane. I think it's so unproductive and inefficient to be going for one thing. So if I can make sure that doesn't happen, that's a great thing. The other thing, huge benefit, I don't have to answer that question or even hear the question, what's for dinner tonight, Mama? I can't stand that one either. So this way, everyone knows. Just check out the menu. It's right there, like plastered front and center in our kitchen on the fridge. I don't have to answer the question, what's for dinner? I don't have to answer the question, what am I going to make for dinner? And I certainly don't have to make any last minute grocery trips. Mm-hmm. So it is a win-win-win all around. I also started implementing things like this into my business, right? Like that example about Tuesday afternoons being prospect outreach, that is because on Tuesday afternoons, I dedicate time to reach out to my prospects. That's just what I do. I make sure all of that is done. on Wednesday mornings. That is my morning to figure out where I'm standing with my outstanding speaking engagements. So I have a little like tracker that I use. I am thinking about moving into Notion or Monday or one of those other tools. But for now, it's just a pretty little Google sheet. And it basically says, okay, well, do I owe any information to an event planner? What date is the event? What needs to be done leading up to it? And basically it kind of is a high level overview for me to see what is going on. Anytime emails come through, I'll make sure I update the spreadsheet. It's basically a way for me to take like a 10,000 foot view to see what's going on with my business. And because I have that time dedicated to it, when that email comes in on like a Friday afternoon, I'm not triggered by it because I'm like, I've got time set up to address these issues. Unless, of course, it's something urgent, and then it's a different scenario altogether. But I think in your business, It has a time and a place to create those systems so that you can focus on what's in front of you at the moment, as opposed to thinking what's, 2 miles ahead or 3 miles ahead or 3 weeks ahead. So
I feel more relaxed already, Jonesy.
Well, wait till you get, the best part is coming. So here's the best part, is the impact, right? What it does is you take all those jumbled thoughts and it's like you're putting the last piece of a puzzle together. For me, I love doing puzzles. And so when I can get that last piece and like everything all of a sudden becomes super clear, it makes me feel just very happy and satisfied that, okay, I'm being productive, right? Like I think as business owners, entrepreneurs, we are always trying to be productive. And many times we confuse busyness with being productive. Mm-hmm. In this scenario, when you start implementing systems, it helps you actually be productive and not just appearing to be busy, because I've got all these things going on. I've got all these emails and meetings. And sometimes for me especially, it becomes very confusing. And so this helps me stay on track, that I've got a system. I know what I'm doing. So it begs the question now, how much of your brain power is spent on things that could be systemized or shared? And it's time to stop carrying the mental load alone. So let's build systems that work for you and not against you. And this is how we do it. These are the steps to help build systems that alleviate mental load. And the first step is to spot the problem. And I'm sure if we took a sheet of paper and we're like, okay, what are some areas that I struggle with? You could have so many different line entries, right? Like it could be maybe missed emails because you have a very clogged up email inbox. Maybe it's, I don't have time to exercise. Maybe it's, I don't have time to connect with people that I've networked with at events. Whatever the problem is, write it down, spot the problem. And the second one, this is the one I get so much pushback on, is target the goal. Target one goal, one. Pick one of those items, and it could be low-hanging fruit, right? It could be something that you're like, okay, this is an easy one. If I just focus on this for the next 30 days, I know that I can turn this into a habit. And that is our end goal. Take that system and turn it into a habit. So
why do you get pushback? I'm sorry. Why do you get pushback?
Because everybody wants to do everything. They want to fix
everything. Okay.
Yeah, there's because it requires patience, right? Even if you take the low-hanging fruit and you're like, let's do this one thing and let's turn that into a habit and focus only on this for 30 days. They're like, and again, it goes back to that motivation, right? You only want to do enough that you can handle on your least motivated day. Because
okay. I love that. Yeah.
Yeah. Right? Like, sure, today you're fully motivated. We want to tackle all 10 of those systems, but tomorrow you might not be. And then you're just going to abandon all 10 of those systems and they never have a chance to turn into a habit. In James Clear's book, Atomic Habits, he says you have to do something for, I think the number is 28 days, 30 days, roughly a month on a daily basis to turn it into a habit. But if you're not doing that, then you're never going to get to that stage. And the benefit is this. So I'm gonna turn this off for just a quick second. The benefit is this. I like to think of it as when you're packing for a trip and you use those packing cubes, those compression cubes, the ones where you like vacuum the air out and they become smaller. So now imagine you're taking any part of your process. So for me, one area, just by all the systems I've created, one area that still eludes me is the concept of a zero inbox. I would love nothing more than a zero-based inbox. I know, pipe dreams, right? Like one fine day. But if I had a zero-based inbox, it's like, imagine this is the space that all my emails are taking in my head. This is all the bandwidth they're taking up in my brain. If I were to be able to put it into and create the system and implement it, that gives me that zero-based inbox. It's like I'm taking all the extra air out, and then all of a sudden it only takes up this much space. And when you do that over and over again with different systems, things that were initially taking up so much room up here, but you condense them all. Because one, you've turned it into a system, and two, you've turned it into a habitual system that now it's no longer taking up that same level of bandwidth. You've compressed it. And then it allows you to do more things, maybe things that, are truly fulfilling to you as a person, right? Maybe you're like, hey, I want to get out there and do more pro bono work or do more community work. And, that's not really impacting my bottom line, but it's something that I find personally fulfilling. Now you have more bandwidth, more availability to do those things. Okay, and now if you wouldn't mind, Dan, getting the slides. Yeah, perfect. Thank you.
We should have had like some sort of signal, like
some signal, right? Yeah. Next time we'll get a signal worked out. I'll like blink twice, and then So pick one system, and then I want you to go ahead and execute the steps, right? So figure out what those steps are going to be. That over the course of maybe it's 10 minutes every single day. Maybe it's a 3-hour block once or twice a week. Execute the steps, right? So figure out what the steps are and start executing them. And then the next step, and this one I think is one of the most important, is to perfect and automate it. So do it over and over again. Perfect it, tweak it, revise it, reframe it, whatever you need to do, but make it perfect so that it works for you. And then start automating it, right? Like there's so many different email rules, right? I have email on the brain. So you can have certain emails. So if I want all the emails coming from conversion chemistry to go into a folder called conversion chemistry. So then that way, once a week, I will create a system where I'm like, okay, once a week, I'm going to check out all my conversion chemistry emails. And they're all in one place. They're not scattered all over my inbox. Again, taking up a lot of that mental bandwidth. And I can go in and I can be fully updated on what is going on in the world of conversion chemistry. So perfect it, automate it, make it easy so it's very hands-off for you. And then lastly, sustain the routine. Sustain it. If you sustain it for 30 days, it'll turn into a habit. If you sustain it even longer, it'll become one of those habits that you just don't even have to think about then. You're just like, I just go in, I just start doing the things because I know what to do without even thinking about it. And I always like to think like, hey, when you wake up in the morning, right, you don't need to think, oh, I need to brush my teeth. Nobody thinks in the morning, oh, let me write that down on my to-do list. Don't forget to brush your teeth. No one forgets that, right? Because you've been doing it for so long that it has become a mindless habit. And that is the goal, is to turn these things into habits that you don't have to think about. Then they're not feeding into that burnout cycle because it's not even a factor there. And lastly, step number 6, this is the best one. Don't forget step number 6, to celebrate your mental freedom, right? I think as business owners, just as adults in general, okay, I'm going to take us out of the framework of business owners and whatever you're doing with your life. But as adults, we do not celebrate our wins. So here's a chance that we have an amazing win. Celebrate it, right? Celebrate it. Maybe go get a massage, go get your nails done, go have dinner or drinks with a good friend, a spouse, a partner, but do something fun and celebrate the fact that you don't have a bajillion things swirling around in your head and that you can actually go there and enjoy that time. Because it's these boundaries, it's these systems that really help us. And, again, just they help us be a more productive person, and they help us, find the most successful version of ourselves. And as I always like to tell my clients, it helps you find the mightiest version of who you are. And so that really concludes what I wanted to share, but I just wanted to, again, revisit this list. So we talked about what is mental load, right? Mental load is just all those things that, we burden ourselves with, the decision fatigue, those micro stressors, and the burnout cycle. And we talked about examples of systems that have worked for me. And I would love to hear about systems that have worked for you guys. And so I'll share my contact info in just a little bit, but I would love to have a conversation and say, hey, what is it maybe that you're struggling with? Or what is it that you've put into place and that is actually now working for you? And then lastly, what steps are needed to start creating a system today? And this quote always comes to mind because the biggest hesitation is, how do I start? And we make such a big hoot about perfecting the start. You don't have to be great to start, but you do have to start to be great. So pick something, pick anything. I would even say just go eeny, meeny, miny, mo, and just pick something randomly and put some effort into that. And wherever you start, it cannot be a bad decision, because success in business, much like sports, it doesn't come from talent alone. Plenty of people have great ideas, big dreams, raw potential, but who are the ones who actually win? Who are the ones who are actually successful? They're the ones who built those systems. They're the ones who keep those systems, are the things that are keeping them moving forward and motivate them, even when motivation fades. The systems is what they can rely on. Another quote that comes to mind is, you are only as great as the systems that you have built. Because that is what, when motivation fades, that's what you have. You have your systems that you can rely on. And a business without systems is a business built on guesswork. And when you remove the intentionality, when you remove that discipline, I'm sorry to say, you don't really have a business, you have a hobby. So when you build the right systems, that's when everything changes. And so here's what I want you to take away, is that success doesn't come from just setting boundaries. It comes from designing systems that keep you in the game and keep you executing those systems relentlessly.
And how can people find you, Mihika?
How can people find me? People can find me in so many different ways. So I am on Instagram at onemightymama_. You can find me on LinkedIn at Mihika Patel. You can email me at mihika@onemightymama.com. And I would love it if you guys could fill out this survey. Let me know what you thought of this presentation. If there were areas you thought I would have liked, that you would have liked for me to cover. And most importantly, what I really want to know is, hey, do you have a team? Are you part of an organization, maybe a corporation, where you would want me to come and speak to your team? Because I would be more than happy and honored to do just that. And I'd be very happy to just have the conversation. And those are all the different ways you can reach out to me. Any one of those works.
Here's what I did. I just pulled up my camera to that screen and I'm going to go in the comments, and I grabbed the URL for that survey.
Perfect. Oh, excellent.
And that's my system.
That'll be a lot easier. Thank you so much.
Texting myself and having my text messages synchronized to a browser tab.
Oh, that is the best.
Look at you, Jonesy, with your technical prowess, huh? How about it?
That was for all of us.
Hey, look, I got to flex a little bit. I didn't want to stress about how am I going to get this QR code if I'm not looking at this on my phone with a different device.
There you go. That's true. That's true. Thank you. I didn't even think about that one. I should well, I'll put it on my LinkedIn post when I talk about that later today.
Now,
well, we can get to that survey from your site, right?
I'm sorry?
We can get to that survey from your main site?
Oh yeah, absolutely. From my website?
Mm-hmm.
Probably not, but I can put it up there. Yeah. I don't have it on my website, but I will have it on my LinkedIn and my Instagram. But I do not have it on my website. I should probably do that.
That's all right. Well, you'll have it done. We'll hold you accountable.
Yes, please do.
Yeah.
Please
This is
do.
awesome. Thank you so much. And you know, a lot of this stuff I've read the 7 Habits, of course, Atomic Habits, Aaron Beck's books, Judith Beck books from back in the day when I was in
Oh,
big weight
wow.
loss
You're really
phase,
going
like
back. Okay.
habit forming, habit forming, habit forming. But this puts a whole new light on it, especially on the business side.
Yes.
Because for 2 reasons, we can't grow and thrive as a business if ourselves are not in an okay space. And second is the business
Very
itself
true.
needs systems for the same exact reasons. Because not only us, but our team members need to be able to automate and do these things, at least the routine stuff, without thinking about it.
Exactly. Exactly. And that's the best part. If you can do these things without having to put too much deliberate thought into it every single time. And of course, this only works for those things that you are doing on a recurring basis. But I think, like me, you'll find that there's a lot of things that you do on a recurring basis. The frequency may be different, but they can all be housed within a system and really make your life so much easier. I think that's what we're all looking for, right? As business owners, how can we make it easier? It's already enough of a struggle.
It is. Here's something I recommend to people when they're asking me, or it comes across our mastermind a lot, is how do I know when and what to delegate? And some of it is directly tied to time value and monetary value, which is very easy to quantify. And if it's something where you can delegate it and it costs you 25% of your potential income, however, it frees up your time to then generate 5x that income in that time, or revenue, I should say, there's your answer. If you don't know, because maybe you're that new and but you have to delegate, but you're not really sure what the return will be. I said, well, you can A/B test your way through some, metrics to determine what is the best thing to delegate. I say two ways. Pick the thing you don't want to do, delegate that first. And the thing you really, really, really like doing in your business, hold on to that.
Yes.
Yep.
Because that's gonna feed your emotions in a positive way and really just fuel your motivation and energy.
And that's a great way of looking at it, right? I mean, as a business owner, you're not going to enjoy everything. But hey, if you have the option to offload something that you really don't like doing, those opportunities are few and far between. So whenever they come, take advantage of it.
Well, for me, that would be my sales process. Sorry, Frank. Go for it.
No, it's okay. I was going to say, for me, I'm a salesman, a closer. I love talking to people. Any sort of technical or Excel spreadsheets and bookkeeping, I'm like,
Yeah.
And in my real estate business, and Jones, you'll be happy to know this as well. We bought 2 more people. Well, the one that we have, Hazel, bought somebody else on board now. Take even more of the burden for me, so I closed the deal this morning before we got on this call, and It's only not even 11 o'clock, so that feels good.
Beautiful. Oh,
congratulations. ABC, always be closing, Frank.
That's it. Absolutely.
But if it's something you enjoy, it's something that you're really good at, that's where you should be focusing on. That's where you should be spending most of your time. The things that you are best at. That's, working smarter, not harder. That's the core of it right there.
Mm-hmm.
Very much so. There's things that I'm great at, and everything else I have no business going near because I'm only going to break it.
So we got there's 15 people watching on the website embedded tool, but that's a YouTube feed. So you have to log into YouTube to comment. So if you want to comment, you got a couple minutes to do so. I know some people like to watch asynchronously, which is fine, but don't miss out on your chance. Otherwise, well, I guess we'll invite you to do just the survey afterwards and check in. But
yeah, please do.
Hey, look, if going on live is not what you want to do, we're not forcing you to do it.
100%. And of course, there's all those different ways that you can reach out to me. So yeah, of course, send me an email, send me a private message on LinkedIn, Instagram, and I will be more than happy to answer your questions. And if any of them, Dan, come directly to you, then send them my way, and I'll be more than happy again to
I'll definitely send them your way because I'm not qualified like you are. So therefore, I will defer. Defer and refer.
Defer and refer. Love it.
Defer and
Love
refer, yeah. Anybody else got any final thoughts?
That was great. Very, very appropriate for me at this time, because the real estate business, we have like a bottleneck in it, and the bottleneck's me. And so we got to get past that bottleneck, which we are and we will. But it's causing me a lot of stress, because I'm like, how am I going to do all this? How am I going to work all these leads effectively? And I can't, I can only do so many in a day. Like, there's a mathematical limit. And to kind of have that taken away from me, it changes my outlook on the business, because I'm like, oh my God, there is hope here. There is an out. It's just trudging through it and making good money. I'm not complaining about that, but oh my gosh, just to know that there's a way out is pretty cool, and it feels good. So thank you again.
You're welcome. You're welcome. And it's the best combination, right? To feel like, hey, the work I'm doing is fulfilling. I'm earning, making a good living out of it. But if I can also enjoy the process, then, that's just
even better.
Cherry on top. Yes, exactly. Well, thank you so much, both of you, for giving me the opportunity to be on here.
Great. This is refreshing. I love the merging. I won't say the merging of personal life and business life, but the perspective that we can use systems really and apply it to both.
Exactly, because you have to. This could be a whole other topic, but work-life balance is a myth, right? You can't be in a strict silo of work and then be in a strict silo of life. They're gonna kind of bleed together. But I find when you have the right systems, the right boundaries put in place, you can be in both and be present and successful in both.
I think we should bring you back on in the future and revisit that work-life balance. What I'm gonna do, I'm gonna watch that show Severance first, because I haven't seen it yet, and I know that that's. I don't know if anybody knows what that is. Oh, it is. Okay, great. So basically having two different personalities, one that's your work life, like literally two different people. So I'm
right? Or like one doesn't have
I'm 2 episodes in and just figuring it out as we go, because
I gotta get caught up.
It's bizarre.
It is.
I'm holding you all back. I'm holding you guys back. Sorry.
Oh yeah.
All right. Well, thank you everybody for joining. Thank you, Mihika. Thank you, Frank. This will be up for about 30 days. Then it's going behind our little paywall. So enjoy it while it's up there. Just go ahead, go to onemightymama.com, and the survey that's in this link here, check it out, and we'll see you around next time.
Sounds great. Thank you so much.
Excellent.
Have a good day, everyone.
Everybody.